return sometimes. So I just had to find somebody to just speak to that wouldn't judge me, that didn't know me, that would just talk to me like, regular.
Yeah.
Right.
This podcast focuses on topics related to mental health and may include content that could be triggering for some listeners. It is intended for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your physician, therapist, or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a mental health condition. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, please contact a licensed mental health professional or call your local emergency services or crisis hotline immediately. Welcome, everybody, to the Mind Our Business podcast, where we dive into life's challenges and triumphs while exploring the world of entrepreneurship. Here, you're going to get real talk about real life and real business.
That's right.
And on today's episode, y'all, this is so important. We're going to be talking about mental health. So we're going to be addressing the stigma, why it's so difficult to talk about, the importance of normalizing conversations around mental health, and various ways to keep our peace and keep some balance, y'all. So important, right?
Very important.
So before we get into that, let's make some introductions. We're going to have everyone to share their name and a little bit about what you do.
Hi, I'm Simone. I'm Simone Vintage. I'm a vintage stylist and a curator, creating looks with you in mind.
And I'm Dr. Carmen, your go-to PhD for menstruation mindset coaching and perspective shifting group experiences.
And I am Tamika, your favorite certified recreation therapist, focusing on inclusion and adaptive recreation programming and always advocating for those with disabilities as well as our elder population.
And I'm Carla Shahid, the realtor and also certified real estate planner, where I help people build, protect, and transfer wealth through real estate.
And I'm your girl, Gigi Garcia. I'm the owner and director of Blues Dance Studios and Vibe Together.
All right. Okay.
So per our usual, we are going to set this conversation off with a quote.
Okay.
So you guys, I have a quote from Dr. Brenda Wade. She's a psychologist.
Okay.
And she says, before you can begin to think of what you can do for the world at large, you need to free yourself from your own chains. Too often, we carry so much baggage, emotionally and mentally, that we are too weighed down to do much more than inch forward along our path.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's so true.
Let that marinate a little bit, y'all.
That needs a minute.
That's a two-parter.
Yeah. So how does this quote resonate with you guys in terms of mental health?
Well, that resonates. I see a lot of people on that first part putting others, their health, and worried about rescuing them when they are suffering in plain sight, and want to captain save somebody else and not themselves.
Right,
Like, that's not your job. Your job is not to rescue everyone else. So that does resonate with me, and it is hard because we are all struggling and to push, along every day. So I really like that quote. Dr. Brenda Wade.
I definitely want to key into the part where she talks about free yourself from the chains. So I think we're so hard on ourselves, and we don't know how to forgive ourselves for doing something that we should not have done. And in my industry, working with persons with mental health, a lot of times they're coming in, they're feeling that depression, they're feeling that anxiety because they can't let go of something that they've done in the past. And they're they're suffering inside because they can't let it go.
Right.
And you have to, we're not perfect people.
Right.
And you have to learn how to forgive yourself and let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you can't move on. You can't have inner peace without it.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you ever felt weighed down, like weighted down by mental or emotional baggage?
I have my I suffered with anxiety for a very, very long
Girl,
time.
the same. The same.
But it was like almost debilitating in a sense to where even the thought of getting on a plane like 2 days before, I would have such a fear. Like even seeing the plane, my heart would just start beating, palpitating. This all started after when I got pregnant with my middle child, Imara, and I started having all these fears and anxieties. So much to where even traffic, if I was stuck on a freeway, I would get hot. I would have to roll down the window, couldn't breathe. And it just came from just like, where did this come from? And I'm like, what is going on with me? Right. And I think like you took many flights with me before, right?
Yes, I'm surprised I still have my skin.
Literally, your skills came into play where you had to really, what did you call it? Mental, it was a
We did a deep breathing. We did I guided you through a guided meditation,
Yes.
and kind of just took your brain away from where you are. You have to distract you.
Right.
It's a method of distraction.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it helped. It
It
really
did. It did.
But the part is that now that I'm like pretty much cured from that, like I don't have it as bad. I can get on a flight. I don't have that anxiety feeling.
Yeah.
But that reminder in the back, like I'm supposed to be scared.
Right.
I'm supposed to have this fear.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it doesn't happen. Now I
Yes.
can get on an elevator. I can get on a plane without having that. But I just remember feeling so embarrassed. Like I was so embarrassed to have it because this came out of nowhere. And I got on the plane. I'll never forget this. I was coming back, I believe, I don't know where I was coming from, but we had to fly across the US or what have you. They told us to sit down. We were in mid-flight. I could not sit down. I stood up and tears just started coming from my face.
Right.
The stewardess was I was like, I need ice. I need water. I was just like this.
Man.
And I'm crying.
No, that's
And the person that I was
crazy.
with was looking at me like,
Yeah.
What is wrong? Right.
but like
Yeah.
condition, but also it was like there was nothing that could be done. The other stewardess like, you can't do that. The nice stewardess, she got up from her seat, unbuckled herself, went and got me some ice or whatever and threw it and said, here, take it, And then she said, when we stopped, because we had a stop, we had to stop. She said, I'll let you off. And then she came to me and she said, you know what? I want to apologize to you because people get on the plane all the time and they say that they have anxiety or they're claustrophobic. She said, I always thought that they was just playing like it wasn't real. She said, but today,
Yes.
I know that it's real.
Right.
And so the thing is that when you have these fears like anxiety or feeling of claustrophobic, when anything like that, when it comes on you,
It weighs you down.
It weighs you down, but you feel like there is no way out and it's real.
Yeah.
But if you have not experienced it or if you don't know, they can't relate to you. But you should just calm down. You should okay, I'm about to fight you in here, like, because this is how I feel like I'm about to die.
Right.
So I thank God that I'm not there anymore, that I recovered. But like for people like you guys too that understand that. So when you are around someone, you have empathy, like you can understand and help. Because it's a real thing.
Well, this is why we have to normalize it.
Right.
And this is the reason exactly, because if everyone, can recognize people's signs of distress, I think people would be more accommodating. Like, especially those stewards, they should have had some kind of training.
Right.
So to recognize this
Right.
and to be able to calm somebody down, because someone else may have escalated it even more.
Right.
I'm trying to relate more and learn more about mental health and different things and anxieties and other things people are plagued with, because I don't struggle with that.
Yeah.
So like I said, when we went to Houston a year ago, when you had all these, requirements, I was like, when did you get like this, girl? And he was like, I've been like this. So I was like, oh, this is a
Right.
real thing, because sometimes I just never looked at it like that. But I'm learning, and I'm learning to be more empathetic to, individuals who are plagued with anxiety and other things that stress them out.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, absolutely.
I do appreciate you sharing your story, Carla, because you used the word embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I think embarrassment is very common for some people who experience challenges with mental health. And that is what prevents them from wanting to talk about it, because of the fear of being judged, the fear of being labeled as crazy or what have you. And
Right.
Simone, I appreciate you sharing as well, because many people who have not experienced any challenges with mental health, it's easy for them to minimize or diminish
Right.
the experience. And the experience can be really, really severe. So I appreciate both of you. Thank you so much.
So a good example of stress is deadlines that we have. So personally, for me, I feel a little stressed every day because I have all of these paperwork that I have to get done. There's a time frame, but little do you know, people look at stress as a negative thing. It's only negative when it's prolonged and it's very, very deep. A little bit of stress is actually good because it makes you accountable. It gives you a time frame for things. Think about if we never had deadlines, we'd never get anything done. So for stress, do you guys feel stress in your business sometimes?
Of course.
Sometimes I say I work better under stress, which is not a good thing, but sometimes I have to have that deadline and for me to stress myself out temporarily. But that's when I say I don't claim it, because I call it temporary, and it's always a temporary situation.
But
or a
Simone,
temporary
like
thought.
when you do work under stress, sometimes most entrepreneurs and business owners work best under stress
Exactly.
because they feel like that's the only push that they have.
Yeah.
Being in business,
Right.
that was me the first probably 5 years, and then COVID hit, and then it was even more. It was even more intense and stressed.
So I don't want you to look at it as a negative. You're saying stressed out like it's a negative.
No,
but-
temporary push.
Right. But I want you to start looking at it as, I'm stressed. There's nothing wrong with being a little stressed. Okay. Because it's getting you to get it done. You're being more effective.
You're saying look at it as a negative?
No,
No.
don't look at it as a negative
yeah,
when you
don't.
Yes, it's like the stress is not the negative, but the anxiety. Anxiety is that fear. It's when your stomach kind of has that funny feeling.
Your thoughts,
When
too.
your thoughts can be racing. You're worrying, you're uneasy. That's that uncomfortable feeling. And anxiety can also be a diagnosis. Okay, so it can be very serious for people. People can get anxiety from stress.
Yes.
So when that stress is prolonged and the stress is for a very long time and it's
That's
very
it.
deep, then they can have that anxiety.
Right.
So Carla, what she explained earlier is anxiety. So she has that. How did you feel inside?
You're anxious, yeah.
Yeah, how I best describe it is like being in a box or being trapped
Yes.
with very little air. Like it's like the air is coming like this, and you're like, so you're starting to panic.
Yes.
You get hot.
Yes.
You break out in like a sweat.
Yeah.
And then your mind is like racing, like because your logical side is like, okay, calm down. Da, da, da. And you can't, because your mind is going faster than what your logic, your brain. It's a weird. It's like this. It's like chaos. And I will say that I went to therapy over it. Like actually, you need to.
Wow.
I went to therapy, and the therapist, like I would say at least 5 times, because I was like, when I tell you that it was taking over me, like when I had my kids, I could not get on the elevator. If I stayed at a hotel, okay, get me whatever floor, I'm taking the stairs. You best believe it. I'm not getting in the elevator. I had a panic attack on the Nemo ride in Disneyland. Like it was just really, really,
It was
really
extreme,
bad.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, and therapy didn't help. I just, not the traditional way of therapy.
Yeah.
It did not help. So yeah, your body goes through
So
it.
anxiety is that feeling.
Yes.
Stress is that action. It's just that demand on you.
Got it.
Okay, so it's two different things. Now, a big one I want to hit is sadness versus depression.
Okay.
I hear people all the time say, I'm depressed. And I'm like, girl, you are not depressed.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you how. what it really means. So sadness is a normal emotion.
Yes. Yes.
This is something you're sad, you're happy, you're mad. You know, these are all
Temporary.
emotions.
Yes.
It's a temporary emotion, and we need to have it as part of being human. Human.
Yeah.
You cannot have empathy for someone if you don't have those emotions.
Yeah.
That's how we connect with each other.
Got it.
So sadness is very normal. And my movie, Inside Out.
Yes,
Inside
I
Out.
love that movie.
That wasn't
Yeah.
whoever came up with that movie, because I don't remember who the director was, but
Brilliant.
it was a brilliant
Mhm.
piece. And it was very playful, but it gave people the opportunity to see, hopefully they got something out of it, to see that you do need all your emotions to be healthy
Yeah.
and to be
Yeah.
whole and to be connected with other people.
Yeah.
Right.
So I actually use that movie at the end of a lot of my educational groups. So when I'm explaining to my clients, you know, these are all these emotions and this is how you feel when you have these emotions, but it's very normal to have these emotions.
Mhm.
And then we play this movie at the end, and it's able to bring it home and connect it. You know?
That's dope. Yeah.
Now
Check it out.
depression. So everybody's had sadness, right?
Yes.
Right? Normal, right?
Yes.
You get sad from different lows
Yeah.
or what have you.
Yeah.
Depression. Depression is, period, it is a diagnosis.
Okay.
It's when you cannot control that feeling. It's a prolonged sadness that does not go away. Okay? It is diagnosed, period. All right?
Okay.
With depression, actually 50% more women are diagnosed with depression and anxiety than men.
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised?
Either.
Oh,
It could be. Exactly. Exactly.
okay.
Right.
Very good. Okay.
That makes sense.
that makes
too.
sense.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
depression is very serious. It's extremely serious because people feel a sense of they isolate.
Okay.
They feel no meaning in life.
Mhm.
A lot of people, unfortunately, are suicidal
Mhm.
at that time, and there's no joy. There's no joy. There's no,
That's
and
crazy.
and sometimes that depression it just happens, and they don't know why.
It's hopeless.
I have seen so many of my clients come in when they're first admitted to the facility, and they're not talking, their heads are down, they're not taking showers, taking baths, they're not brushing, no
my.
hygiene,
Yeah.
because you don't have that urge, you have no feeling, you don't want to be here.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. But then when they're in therapy, y'all, and the doctor gets to them, they get them on the right medication, which is okay. Get them on the right medication. And then I start coming to them individually, because remember, they don't want to come out at first. Come to them individually, and we kind of talk through things, and we have kind of like a talk therapy session. And then I provide them some fun activities that they used to like to do back in the days, because right now they don't have any enjoyment, right? So things they used to like to do, and I just introduce it a little bit at a time. Then eventually you see that medication working, you seeing me coming to them individually. Now they're starting to come out of their room, coming into groups.
Right.
And when they leave, y'all, it's a joy in my heart.
I bet.
And believe it or not, I when I remind them how they were when they come in, they don't remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's deep. Depression is very deep.
Yeah.
It's very deep. So we definitely have to be sensitive. Now, have y'all ever been depressed?
Not the way you described that.
So I bet you a lot of times now you're not going to just easily throw that
No,
depression.
I've never been diagnosed
Right,
with depression.
Right. But you've probably had prolonged sadness.
I've had a lot
But
of
depression,
sadness, yes.
now I hope people can understand the difference.
So
It'd
is
be very-
depression,
Okay.
does depression have to be like debilitating where you cannot do regular functions? Or can you be like a normal, or like a
Functioning
walk
depressed.
You don't
functional
wanna
depressed?
Yeah.
So
Can be.
let me clarify that. That's a yes and no.
Okay.
So when you're clinically diagnosed with depression, you will go through stages where you can't control it. And then you feel those negative symptoms
Okay.
or you can't be around. Then if you go get treatment, maybe they have to adjust your medications, because maybe this is your diagnosis.
Got
They
it.
have to adjust your medication because sometimes your system just gets used to that same medicine.
Got it.
And they have to kind of just reboot you. All right. So you
Okay.
go in, you seek the therapy. Hopefully they're already speaking to a therapist on
Got it.
a continuum basis. And so even a therapist might recognize it and say, hey, you need to go into inpatient and work on it. So then they go get treatment, they go get rebooted, and they're good to go. And you would never know.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it is something that they know they have to deal with for the rest of their life.
Mm.
And we'll talk a little later about
Okay.
some coping strategies and how people kind of deal with that.
I always call myself a street therapist.
Yeah.
And when my friends are sad or in depression, I think I can cure it because I feel like, no, I can see the way out. So sometimes a breakup or something will put you in a funk for a little
Yes.
time. But I believe you do need to get around different energies.
Yes.
So I'm like, let's go
That's
have a
right.
drink. Let's go outside. Let's go. I don't have nothing to wear. I got you something to wear. Let's go and try. And they feel better. Let's get some vitamin D, some sunlight. Let's come
Yes.
out of this because
Yes.
you need to, if you stay in your house and looking at the wall, depression will really set in. So I've helped people with temporary depressions, and helping them get out of that.
Okay.
Like, let's go take a drive.
But
Let's
is
get
that
something to eat.
sadness?
So it's
I think
sadness,
that's
depression.
sad.
Let's go back.
Oh yeah.
So that sadness is not depression because you can't help somebody that's depressed
Yeah, they
Okay.
need.
when they need.
But like they said, the long
they
term
need that
sadness will
professional.
turn into a depression.
That's true. Long
It
term
can.
If I don't call you every weekend, you'll be back in that house that next weekend. Or if I'm saying like, let's go here, come with me on a shopping run, come with me,
But it's not something that they'll snap out of.
Right.
If they're
It's a
if they get
gradual-
no, if they get depressed, it's something they need to
Clinical.
go to a professional
professional.
up there.
to get help because they're not going to snap out of it like that.
Right.
And I do want to do a quick disclaimer
Okay.
is that we are not physicians, we are not psychiatrists. We are really just going off of our own experiences.
That's true.
And for me, I work with mental health clients, and so I'm just going from my experience. But I'm a recreation therapist, not a psychiatrist. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit. Somebody mentioned the pandemic. It was a very hard time for most people.
Mhm.
And I kind of want to talk about how people that didn't suffer from any mental illness at that time, it came about. And I want to give some really hard, probably to gather some difficult situations that actually happened during that time. Remember, all the kids were on Zooms,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of kids actually just couldn't take that isolation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some kids, because remember, it's not just an adult thing.
Right.
This is not an adult thing, mental illness. And so, for a lot of kids, they became suicidal. A lot of parents couldn't take being cooped up. A lot of people, I think the alcohol consumption went up, skyrocketed through the roof
Yeah.
because people couldn't take it.
Right.
So do you guys have any thing you want to share about feelings that you had during the pandemic?
Well, like I said earlier, my business was definitely affected by the pandemic. We were locked down. We were mandated to be locked down, and we did not operate for almost 5 months.
Wow.
Okay, 5 months. So that meant that I was thinking of other ways to recoup losses of income. So I did have to pivot my business. So what I was doing at the time was I was creating other ways to generate income, which was a day camp, which the state did allow.
Okay.
And I was hustling my juices and like a bunch of other things and merchandise and stuff like that. So there was other things that I was doing to recoup loss. But what you said was that engagement
Yes.
that kids lost.
Yes.
Even though we had to spread them out 6 feet apart, right? So we had to create these boxes
Right.
in my studio that were 6 feet apart, and we were only allowed to have certain amount of kids in the studio. We had to take their temperature, they had to wear masks,
Right.
and all this stuff. They had to be negative or whatever. So it was the lack of engagement and normalcy.
Yes.
The kids lost out. And not only that, they lost out for almost 2 years.
2 years.
So now that I'm back, now that we're kind of back into normalcy, now that I'm back into these after school programs, these kids are still recouping from
Yes.
that. So mentally,
Yes.
we have to create curriculums and ways to engage them and knowing that they're safe,
Right.
that there's human interaction, and that people are listening, which is what we call community partners. So my business is considered a community partner with these schools, and we give them those tools to give them back some normalcy from that pandemic.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, the parents were gone. They had to keep working, especially parents who were considered essential workers, which was over half of them. You know, they weren't off because there was a pandemic.
Right.
They still literally had to go, and there were a lot of doctors, nurses,
Yeah, and
a lot of right.
Right.
So they still had to go in
Yeah.
Yes.
and go to work. Nothing changed for them, and a lot of those kids were affected. What am I gonna do with their kids? They can't go to school.
Right.
Schools are closed because the state said, or the whole world is shut down. You know what I mean? So it was a big situation, and we're still recovering from that. You know, so now now that you brought that up, it's like, what are we doing, and how are the kids coming out of it, and where are they at today?
And I think it really
We're talking
had
about
people,
5 years later too,
right, and
right?
but it did help people be more aware
Right.
of mental, illness,
Yes.
or
Okay.
just our everyday kind of snags, and what happens when you have that extreme sadness or deprived of the human interaction.
They were sad. These kids were sad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
even me and my business, people say, "Oh, it's the pandemic now. I can't have a party. Everything is shut down." People start resorting to private parties and say, "Well, I don't need an outfit." No, we still can. Stores are closed. We
Yeah.
can't try clothes on. So I
Oh,
would do a
yeah.
lot of virtual styling. So
Right.
you have a private party with your family or whoever, you tested or vaccinated, whatever you had to do to get through that moment. But we would do a virtual, and people would still I'd order things, and we did it that way, and that helped them to come out of the depression. Because people say, "Oh, I'm turning 50.
Yeah.
It's 2020. I'm turning whatever age," and it's shut down. You can't have a party at a facility or a club or rent a place. So, I try to help turn that around too in that aspect.
And our condolences for people that have loved ones that
Lost the COVID.
that lost to COVID.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember when I actually did get COVID, because remember, I was one of those essential workers. So
Okay.
although some of my facilities I didn't have to go to, I still got out about once or twice a week to where I had to go to some of the hospitals.
Oh, okay.
And so I ended up getting COVID, and I have a compromised immune system because I have the lupus and the scleroderma. And so when I said, "Oh my goodness, I'm starting to feel kind of weird." And I had the shots and everything.
Okay.
So what gave me the little anxiety, and it was just a little bit, is because when I called the doctor, they were like, "Okay, we gotta get you in right today." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And when I said I got in right away, I had to sit in there and get IVs. Now, this was early in the pandemic before I didn't even know they had medication for it then. So I had to get in there and get IV. And as soon as I pulled up to the actual hospital, they told me which one I had to go to. Somebody came out with a wheelchair, and I'm thinking, "Lord, am I gonna die tomorrow?"
Right.
Like, it was extreme.
Yeah.
And my mom was so sick because she was like, "Oh my God, is my child gonna make it?"
Right.
So I feel like if I had not been in the industry of mental health and understand the importance of having coping strategies, and which we'll talk about a little later, I don't know if I would have been able to just get through it emotionally, But I was calm and cool, but until I was like, "Why they make it so much a big deal?
Right.
Lord, am I gonna be okay?" Right. So it was definitely a hard time.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, definitely a hard time.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about stigma. So we kind of, you mentioned that a little earlier. Stigmas. Why do you think it's so hard for people to talk about mental health in their personal life?
They don't want to feel weak.
Yeah.
They don't want to be looked at as weak.
Right.
Yeah.
What y'all think?
I think people are claiming it more and looking for empathy,
I think it's
sympathy cards.
normalized more
I-
too.
It is normalized more, but I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes it's temporary, and people are still claiming it. Like I said, you can have a breakup, and all of a sudden you're claiming, a long-term depression when it's a temporary sadness, a temporary thought.
Okay.
But I think
Yeah.
people are loving these labels, and then people are more sympathetic to them. Some people do have it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But some people are claiming it, and then you have it go back and forth. People say, "Oh, I have this, I have that, I have anxiety, I have,"
Then
do
that's
you?
something else then that they
Yeah,
have
that's-
too.
yeah.
That's what they
another
claim.
condition.
I'm
They
not a
have another
doctor. I just
condition.
know what they claim.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I think people use it more. I think they love it. They put it online. But it is more accepted now, and it is good that it is a topic.
It's getting
But
to a point.
yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
people are embarrassed, and
But
not in
we're
my.
also experiencing and witnessing a lot of people not shaming that they have depression,
Right.
and even suicidal
Yeah.
incidents
Yeah.
where they do take their own
Yeah.
life.
We are seeing that on the internet.
Yeah.
Largely.
So we're seeing more of that too, and that also causes chaos, mentally to the younger generation, and just at everybody. Period. Like nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to experience or witness somebody so sad and depressed that they
I think some of the stigma starts at
transition.
home. It
You
starts
think
at home.
so?
Absolutely. And
Starts where?
at home. And so, traditionally, families of color, they're like, oh girl, you're gonna be okay. Just go sit down. And everybody
Right.
waves it away.
Right.
And so I think if you come from a household
Mhm.
that will sit you down, parents sit you down and talk about how are you feeling, and understand as adults that kids have feelings. Kids
Absolutely.
are going through things at school.
Yes.
Back in the days when I was young, my dad is from old school. So it's like, you gotta feel you a kid.
Mhm.
You a kid. And that was a common thing.
Right.
So I would challenge parents especially to be open and make sure that your kids feel comfortable with coming to you.
Absolutely.
And don't minimize their feelings, because these kids are getting bullied at school,
Yes.
and you're seeing what's happening.
Social media,
Yeah.
all
Social
of that,
media, yeah.
cyberbullying.
And
all of
I
that.
had to learn the hard way
Yeah.
with my child. I
Mm.
did, because I was like, what? Depressed
Okay.
about what? Like, you're spoiled. Life is good. You don't have any bills. I was like, what? This is temporary. What's going on? That girl don't like you. Forget her. Like, no, you're not sad about her. And I would, try to, but she, and this, I think the younger generation, what is it, Gen Z, or, they really
Yeah.
say, hey, I do have anxiety.
They're
I do
very
have depression.
susceptible
They
to,
they are. They
yeah,
really
attention,
yeah,
validation.
they are. Yes.
Stuff,
Mhm.
yeah.
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 I think it does. I just want to touch on this really
Mhm.
quick because my daughter actually brought this to my attention. And I think it does start at home and also like your upbringing. So for, some people, and I'll just speak for myself, like I just knew that I had to be strong. Like I had to be the strong one. I'm the oldest. So I have, so there was a lot of responsibility put on me at an early age. And I also think just teaching from my parents, like, oh, you're going to be okay. Just like how you're saying,
Yeah.
like with your daughter, like, what are you depressed about? Well, I know when my children, when they, like one, her boyfriend broke up with her on Valentine's Day. And for me, of course I was upset, but my whole thing is like, forget him, let's go get some ice cream and he ain't cute, no way. Let's go,
You
that kind of thing.
downplaying it and stuff.
Downplaying, but that was my way of trying to make her feel better.
Yeah.
But really, she was not feeling heard. So what my oldest daughter said is like, yeah, mom, like, because I'm a cool mom. Da, da, da. She was like, yeah, you're fun to hang around, but sometimes you're not emotionally available. I'm like, wow.
I heard that too.
That's deep.
That is
Yeah.
deep, so
Mhm.
that just brought awareness to me. Like when you were just saying, like, just we need to check in on our kids
Yes.
and say, how are you doing? Not just because you guys are just, well, you got everything. What are you sad about? But
Right.
like really checking in. So that
Yes.
brought awareness to me,
Good.
Yeah.
And I had to have that check too, because I guess I try to sweep people's problems away and like, let's go do something else and hopefully you'll forget about it.
learned
And
behavior.
and well, I don't know. My mom worked in Napa State Hospital for 40 years, and I had an uncle that was in and out of, but I wasn't taught mental. I
Yeah.
just thought that was them and that was him.
Right.
Not me, not us.
You
but
didn't connect.
She didn't. No,
Yeah.
it didn't connect. But again, it's how I process things. So I'm
Right.
always, oh, okay, this happened. Okay, I'll get over it, and I just get over things. So,
Yeah.
but it wasn't taught to me. So it wasn't even taught to be empathetic. And she had been a rehab therapist, as you know, went back to school and been in that capacity for years. But maybe I don't know if she thought it wasn't her either. But it wasn't a taught thing. It just was. My uncle was in, she was there, and that was her job.
Wait, so you said emotionally available. So can that also relate to the business side? Because I work with kids.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And sometimes I feel like there's a service that I have to provide, and I don't always want to be just so black and white and cut and dry. Do this, do that, do this, do that. But then sometimes these kids, all they want to is they just want to hug Miss Gigi.
Yeah.
They just want to tell me what they did today. And I have to catch myself because I'm on a time schedule and I'm like, go back to your formation, go back to your dot. You know what I mean? Come on, we're late, or whatever. And I have to scale back sometimes and feel like, you know what? Are these kids really getting that attention at home?
Yeah.
So my question is like, for me, this is a personal question for me.
Yes.
Like, should I utilize that engagement that these kids are giving me and just maybe take, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and just say, okay, because what I've done now and what I've implemented in my after school programs is a friendship circle.
Right.
And what I do is I just ask them, how's their day? What is one thing that made you smile
Check in.
throughout
Love
the week?
it.
Like a check-in.
That's what we
Correct.
call a check-in.
Correct.
Mhm.
And the directors and the school district really love that
Yes.
because they understand the importance of the mental health,
Right.
the mental part of it.
Right.
So it's very important to me to just check in on mentally with these kids
Yes.
because that is my niche and who I cater to.
Mhm.
So I just want to know from y'all, like, should I like scale back and like, not be so Miss Gigi mode and teacher mode and be just like, what's wrong? Or what do you mean?
But I
Or,
do
you know,
understand you setting boundaries because I
You
have
do.
been
I
there,
do have
and
to
the
set
kids will hug you
boundaries
for
too,
20
though.
minutes. They love Miss Gigi. I've
Yeah.
seen it. They have hugged you, and you're like, okay, okay.
They are so
Yeah, set
attached to
boundaries.
me.
Yeah,
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 they're
set
very
boundaries is
attached
good.
to me. A lot of them don't even want to go to another teacher, another class because Miss Gigi's not there today or whatever.
Aw.
So, but at the end of the day, these kids don't understand that they're in a particular class and this is a business that's giving them this service and it's going to be who it is,
Yes.
sort of thing.
Maybe a 5-minute timeout at the end, hug time.
But it's crazy when they see me, like when I was sick a couple weeks back and I didn't show up for after school for like 4 days, Miss Gigi, oh my God. And there I was just bombarded with all the kids. So that does make me feel good. But then again, they want to talk. They just want to be in your face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think you're doing the right thing. I think you just have to have the boundaries.
Okay.
I like the idea of just a group hug,
Yeah.
because kids need that affection, they
And
need
a
that
check-in.
attention. And if they're
Yeah.
craving it, you got to give it.
Yeah.
And you can just instill, maybe it's just a 5-second hug. And everybody gets a 5-second hug, and that's it.
5-second hug. Okay.
And so, you
5-second
you
hug.
don't want to ignore it.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
I want to move on a little bit to,
Okay.
do you feel like society has unrealistic expectations for us female entrepreneurs, that we have to juggle everything and be okay? You have to be, you have to be the mom, you have to cook, you have to clean, you have to do your business, you have to just carry through everything and be okay. And you don't get a mental health break.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's been times where I've been like sick, like I just felt sick. And I wanted to stay in the bed, and I thought about I'm just gonna sleep in today.
Physically?
Yeah. Physically sick, like a cold,
Okay. Like you have
I'm
a flu.
sick.
Okay, got it.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot afford to be sick. I gotta
Okay.
get out of here. I gotta get out this bed and push through. So that
Right.
has been my mindset. Even today, I feel like I have those moments where I just feel like I have to keep going, whether that's societal, whether that's just me as a person, whether, I just feel like, or even just lounging on the couch. Sometimes I feel guilty just lounging because I have so many other things that I could do. So yeah, I do feel like there's, some pressure.
Yeah, I feel guilty every time I take a break.
Mhm.
I feel a little bit,
Do I?
a little bit of guilt because I'm like, I could be taking care of this paperwork, or I could be doing something with my daughter, or I could be doing something with my son. And you feel like you have to.
Yes.
You have to always be there, because the truth be told, everyone is coming to you. Everyone,
Hello.
your man is coming to you, your kids are coming to you, work is coming to you. And it's like you have to
Yes.
tackle everything. And that's why they always talk about, I'm so strong, I'm so strong. But we have to recognize that we need our own mental health breaks, and we need what we call those coping strategies. So coping strategies are things or activities that you do to eliminate or to decrease that negative feelings that you get.
Okay.
So if you have that sadness or that anxiety, it's the coping strategy. What are you doing to eliminate that? And so part of the wellness is making sure that you incorporate those type of things for yourself.
Okay.
I believe in breaks, and I do, and I fall back, and I don't care who's mad. But talked
But
to one
that's
of my
good.
girlfriends today. She's
Yeah.
so sick. I have to do this for my children. I said, no, you have to take care of yourself. Self-care. fall back. You there. It's not like you're not there. It's not like you're not there 90% of the time. You take a break and take care of yourself because you will break down.
Yeah.
So I do believe in, hey, you have to understand this is what's going on today. I'm sick. And
Yeah.
I don't feel well and I want to fall back.
Right.
And it's okay. And I don't feel guilty. But I have another person. So my mom says, if you sit down, you're lazy. I'm like, okay, well, take your break.
And that's how they look at it.
Right,
But
they look at it that way.
self-preservation
Right.
is real. Because if you're not healthy, you cannot help others. You cannot be a productive in your work. You can't be there for your kids emotionally, for your significant other. And so you have to take care of yourself. Is there anything that you guys do now? Maybe name one thing that you do to preserve your health. You kind of already said you just take a break. Is there anything else that
I think mine is like time blocking and compartmentalizing what I need to do. So when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm with the kids, I'm like present. Like we just came back from Hawaii. I was present with them.
good?
You know, I worked while they were asleep. And when we had an amazing time, but there were times that before that I would not allow myself to do that.
Right.
You know, but I believe that is part of my coping thing is just compartmentalizing.
I like
I'm not on that right now. And that's what I'll say. I'm not on that right now. I'm on this right now. And then I'm going to get to that, you know?
Because you guys know multitasking is not a thing. Because it's something that's not going to get done
Right.
to the best.
Something's
So
gonna be
you're
shorted.
taking one thing at a time.
One thing at a time.
One focus.
One focus.
Right.
I love it.
For me, it's
You
when
do
I
that.
when I need that break, I like to watch a silly movie. So I watch something that's so funny. I get in my onesie because I love some onesies. I get in my onesie, and that's my break. I sit in front of the TV and I watch something that makes me laugh. You know, and that's what helps me.
Yeah.
Is there one thing that helps you, Gigi,
Okay, so one
other
thing-
than wine?
How did you know?
She know it. No. So no, seriously, I just like Carla, I do time block, but I also designate one day to just me, which is my Sundays. So just like Simona said, it's all about self-care. And I feel like after a certain time, I don't respond to emails. I don't
Very
take
good.
phone
You set
calls.
boundaries.
I set boundaries. I don't check the business social medias. I don't do anything. I don't care. I don't care if it's an emergency or if the building is burning. Like, well, technically no. No, seriously though, but to the point where I've already experienced burnout
Right.
last year. So, and what people don't know is that when you experience burnout, you don't come out of that, immediately.
Right,
Like it takes time
Exactly.
because you're restoring and rejuvenating and recouping. And that can take months. It could take up to a year. Am I right?
Yeah.
So I just want to encourage everybody that does feel burnt out is to block a time for yourself.
Yeah.
Do what makes you happy on that day
Yeah.
for you. And that's what helped me. Not only that, but I have set a therapist too. I've spoken to a therapist
Very good.
for a couple of months. So that, I mean, I don't think I've ever told y'all that or anyone that, but oh my God, I'm about to start tearing up. But that was something that I felt so vulnerable
Good.
in my life, like one of the most vulnerable things I've done, because I don't think I've ever really spoken to a therapist and like just explain and just talk about things that really like made me feel so low at that time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I feel shame sometimes because you're looked at as a leader.
Yep.
And you're looked at as somebody that supposed to be strong and help people,
Right.
and you just don't get that in return sometimes. So I just had to find somebody to just speak to that wouldn't judge me, that didn't know me, that would just talk to me like, regular.
Yeah.
Right. And doesn't know anything about me. So damn, that's crazy. Like, that's the first time I'm ever sharing that.
You did that for yourself.
I did.
Sharing that. You
Because last year at my showcase, like I literally broke down. I felt like I'm done with this shit. I'm just over it. And I don't know. I didn't know why I was feeling like that. And I felt like I was disappointing my kids, my staff, just everybody, because I felt like everything was coming down on me heavy.
Yes.
Like really heavy. And I just wanted to leave, but I had to pull myself out of my own car, and say, Gigi, you did this. Get back in there and finish what you started. And I had to just do what I had to do and get through it. But I'm telling y'all, like, take time for yourself, because when you feel that burnout, like, it really will hit you hard. You have to take care of yourself first, because you will be good. You won't be good for anyone if you feel like this or the way I did, last year. So I'm finally coming out of it, and being on this show and being around you ladies and being around, people and doing new things in my life is helping me come out of that.
I am so proud of you.
Oh
I
my
am
God.
so proud of you.
I
I
let
am.
that out.
And see, Gigi, you just put everything in perspective, because one of the things that you said repeatedly, you did all this in quietness.
Yes.
You did all
I
this
held it to
and you
myself.
isolated because it's not normalized.
Right.
Because you felt that embarrassment.
Yes.
And that's what we have to get away from, because everyone doesn't
Yep.
seek help like you did.
Right.
There's people that feel that same way, and they'll keep going down that rabbit hole. And next thing you know, they have committed suicide, and people are like, what happened? It's because we are not open as a society to be okay with people expressing themselves,
Yes.
and saying, I need a break.
Yeah.
But we also have to take a little bit of accountability, which you did, and you said, hey, I need to go see a therapist.
Yes.
And that's big.
Yes.
That's big to be able to do that.
Yes.
So let's go on and talk about, in general, I like Dr. Google. Okay. And Dr. Google, I found little snippets of 6 tips that you need for improving emotional wellness. All right. Okay. So one is to build resilience. So we already started talking about that, is coping strategy.
Right.
What are you doing when you're starting to feel, weighted down, when you're starting to feel that sadness, or, that feeling insignificant, or whatever that negative trait is? What are you doing to help yourself? Is it a deep breathing? Is it, going and taking a break, going outside and getting some vitamin D? Yes. What are you doing? So building resilience is number one. Another one is reducing stress, because we already talked about what stress can cause, some anxiety, right? So reducing stress, not to say you still need that little bit, right? But reducing it so that it doesn't get to the point where it causes that anxiety or depression. Yes. Another one is social interaction.
Yes.
And I think people don't know how important social interaction is. I have a lot of clients that say, I don't like people.
I hear that from
I
friends.
just like my dog. But what happens is that when you key into it deeper, it's not that they don't like people, it's that they've had so many times where people, they end up not trusting people, and they've been violated by people. And so now they just kind of want to stay away from people. But, there's long-term research that says you need social interaction.
Yes.
And people that have that social interaction actually live longer.
Right.
And honestly, even with elder population, when they have a dog,
Yes.
They live longer.
Or you bring a baby around.
that is still a little bit of socialization.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another area is quality of sleep. Now that's a big one, especially for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We are supposed to get, how many hours you guys think you're supposed to have? It's a range.
Yes.
As an adult.
6 to 8.
6 to 8,
7, 8.
7, 8.
8 now.
So it's actually 6 to 9.
Okay.
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 So a minimum of 6, a maximum of 9. And I've had to read research after research, because, I'm teaching educational groups. But on a long term, if you're getting less than 6 hours every day, or more than 9 hours every day, you can shorten your lifespan.
Oh, that's it. I'm going to bed 6 hours. Okay, so 6 hours for sure.
And honestly, I see this issue more with men in my experience. They're working and working and working and working and working outside the house because they have to pay the bills, they have to do whatever. And I met so many guys that say I get 3 hours of sleep, or I get 4 hours of sleep every night, and that's all I get. But if you do that for a long term, it can definitely shorten your lifespan.
I can see that.
Oh, yeah. So definitely get that sleep. When you're getting that deep sleep, that gives your body time to what? Repair.
Repair.
It repairs. It repairs all your organs.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to have ability to cope with loss. And so we kind of talked about coping strategies and then being mindful. And I think Gigi spoke about this before on previous episodes, is being mindful, focusing on the today and the now.
Yes.
We dwell so much on our past. That's that lack of forgiveness of yourself sometimes. We focus so much on the past and so much on what hasn't even happened yet.
Right. That worry.
Stay in the today and the now sometimes and celebrate those small wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Stay there. So, when it comes to handling relationships, have you ever had a relationship where where your partner did not accept you as an entrepreneur and they made it hard for you?
Yep.
Yep.
Go ahead, Carmen. I see it in your face.
Yes. So my prior relationship, I think it was difficult for him for whatever reason to see me being out there and doing my thing and engaging with people and shining.
Yeah.
You know, I allow my light to shine, and so I feel like that was difficult for him. I think, felt like he was, battling or in competition with, my business, with the entrepreneurship side. So that was definitely a challenge, So as being one part in the partnership or the relationship, had to step back and think like, okay, am I giving enough to my relationship, and am I giving quality to my relationship, and what ways can I balance the two? So I think that was really helpful for me to kind of sit back and really assess that, because when I and focus on something, I have laser beam focus.
Yeah.
Too. I can relate.
I'm passionate. I'm going right, and you got to come along or not.
Right.
And so I think that in terms of my or how I contributed to the marital discord was not taking a look at the balance. I was go 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 and not necessarily focusing on that. So yes, it can be a challenge.
Yeah. What I want to advise someone that is kind of woken up today about, now what do I do? How do I preserve my mental health? I want to challenge you to do what I teach people, is develop a wellness maintenance plan. So what a wellness maintenance plan is, developing activities. You can write it on a list. Some people like to put, like me, I probably put it on a board with pictures, because I don't like to look at words. I want to see pictures that remind me of things I need to do daily, things I need to do weekly, and things I need to do monthly. Okay. This is to keep you well. All right. So some of the things that you should have on this list would be things that you need to do outside. So that is really big. Nature is wonderful, y'all. We have that vitamin D is free.
Yeah.
So even when it's a cloudy day, you're still getting some vitamin D. And that's a natural mood regulator.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to do some activities outside. Another thing that you need to have on this list is have a support system. So either that's a person that's a friend that you call when you just need to talk. It could be a family member, or it can be a therapist or a counselor. But you need to have someone that you can release. People that keep everything within, which happens a lot with men, you explode at some point. And that is very unhealthy, and it can obviously be very damaging.
Right.
So you have to have some form of release, even if it's just someone that's listening. And hey, I want you guys to also recognize that you may be that person for someone else.
Yeah.
So, and it's not that a person always needs you to comment
Right.
or give a solution,
Yeah.
but just to hear them and allow them to release. Okay, because that's health.
Right.
All right. And another thing is that you need to develop hobbies. I know it's
Right.
hard as entrepreneurs, but we have to develop hobbies, and everyone should have hobbies. Things that you enjoy doing. It gets your mood up.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you pump, and guess what? It kind of it resets you. So when you finish doing that thing that's fun for you, whether it's hiking, going dancing, or what have you, when you come back and get to work, you're more productive
Mhm.
because you have released. You know,
Makes sense.
other things is exercise, getting the regular exercise in. I know Gigi, we're going to talk more about that later.
Yep.
Eating well.
Mhm.
So things like that, that's the kind of stuff you need to put in your maintenance plan to keep yourself.
And I'm glad you said that about listening too, because I
Mhm.
have a friend, sometimes we talk, and she says, listen, I need you to be an ear. I didn't ask your opinion. So now I know to hold back. And I said, did
Right.
you want my opinion?
Uh-huh.
Do you want my opinion? She said, no, just listen to me.
Mhm.
I'm not asking. I just needed to vent.
Right.
I need to call you to vent. So, so I know that now. I'm like, okay, can I interject? Or you want me to? Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So I have to listen because that's not, she let me know her boundaries.
Yeah.
So I respect that.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
And I don't know if you remember, but there's been times where you call me and I'm listening to you and you say, well, do you have something to say? And I'm like, do you want me to say something? And you're like, yes, I want your opinion. I wait until someone asks.
I don't
Most
like
of
the
the time.
silence though.
Most of the
Yeah,
time.
say
Yeah.
something.
Not
Like,
all the
talk
time.
Not
about it.
Not all the time.
But a lot of times when somebody wants to talk,
Mm-hmm.
you have to ask me,
Lately, you've been like that, but not in the past.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
She's growing.
right,
It's
she's
flourishing.
growing, so
Yeah.
I'm not perfect either. Yes. Well, so and then I guess it depends on the person too.
Right.
So
So topic.
it-
Maybe.
Absolutely.
Right.
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 Okay.
Right.
Yep.
'Cause
Right.
I don't want bad stuff to happen. So yeah,
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
But anywho, you
Yeah.
have to recognize that. So sometimes
Absolutely.
people do want to hear it from you. Sometimes people just want to vent.
Right.
Okay.
You're right.
So challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge.
Yes.
I'm gonna do the challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
So in taking what Tamika just said, thank you so much.
Yes.
For that. Per our usual for our amazing audience, we want to give you something to do. We want to call you to action so that you're not just watching us passively and not, making any changes. And so we have our challenge for this particular episode, and it includes 3 steps. So the first one is, like Tamika just said, to create your wellness maintenance plan, as you so eloquently described. So that could be activities that you're going to do daily, weekly, monthly. You could read a book. You could, whatever works for you. So that's creating your plan. Write it down.
Nice.
Step 2, y'all, is to create a coping skills toolbox or
Ooh.
list. So what is
Okay.
a coping skills toolbox
Yeah.
list?
So that's when you come up with those activities that we talked about earlier that helps you to minimize or get rid of those negative feelings that you're having. So now at this point, you have your maintenance, right? Where you're doing stuff every day to keep yourself well. But sometimes it's just not enough. Sometimes you have that break where, oh, this didn't work today and I'm feeling stressed out, or I'm feeling, what have you. That anxiety kicks in. And so now, what do I do now? So for you, it was maybe the deep breathing. For you, for someone else, it could be getting outside and getting that fresh air. So make sure you have that list and have it handy for yourself, because when you're going through that time, sometimes you're not going to remember those things that work. So seeing that list is very helpful.
And then the last part is just making sure that the items that you have on your list
Are
are
healthy.
healthy, right?
Yes.
You want to say more about that, or?
Yes, and I think this is everyone. We all have done this before, and we all have, do it now. When you're having that stressful time and you're getting that anxiety, it's like, oh, I need a drink, or and a lot of people, hey, I'm gonna be honest. I deal with my clients all the time, and they're like, I'm gonna smoke some weed, and it's natural, and it's good. So I don't argue with people on this, but what I'm saying to you is when you are coming up with a list of healthy coping strategies,
Right.
it needs to be things that are not altering your body, not altering your mind. So stay healthy on those items, because you can have long-term effects by doing the negative
Right.
coping strategies.
Right.
Yeah.
And so post these lists all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Put them in your bedroom, your drawer, have them in your phone. Maybe it could be your screensaver on your
Yes.
computer.
Right.
Give it to your loved ones, right?
Right.
And I think that that's really important
Yes.
as
Yeah.
regular reminders that this is my commitment to my mental health.
Right.
So that's the challenge, y'all. So we want
Love
you
to
to
do it.
engage in that. Share with us in the comments how that goes for you. We really do
Right.
want to hear how you're doing. And
then we should probably do one ourselves too, right?
Let's go and ask that.
And we can post ours.
Yes.
You know.
So
I would do
I'm
that.
going to ask you,
Yeah.
our social media guru,
Yeah.
if you, I know, right? If you don't mind, reminding us of that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Sending out that link and saying, hey, everybody share, your maintenance plan, maybe 3 items on your maintenance plan, and name some 3 coping strategies.
Yeah.
And then we need to key in too, because it's a challenge for us.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
We
We'll
all
do it.
need to stay healthy.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Ooh, this has been an amazing conversation.
I love it.
Yes.
Talked about
Yes.
stigma related to mental health. You have cleared up for us the differences between sadness and depression. We've talked about the relationship between stress and anxiety. We've talked about the demands that are placed upon us when we are in leadership roles and right, the expectations and sometimes feeling like we as leaders don't have people to go to
Absolutely.
when we are in need of support, and then this amazing action plan. So thank you so much, our amazing audience, for tuning in to the Mind Our Business podcast. But before we go, y'all, you know that we got to give a shout out to Percy Robinson.
Thank you, Percy.
The person behind
Thank
the
you.
camera, behind the scenes,
Yes.
making sure that we all look amazing.
All the time.
Thank you, Brother Percy. We appreciate you.
Yes.
So until the next episode, stay true to yourself and remember, let's mind
our business.
Bye.
Bye.